We will call this meeting of the City County Consolidated Parks Board for December 4th, 2024 to order. Official gavel. Could we have a roll call, please, and introduction of guests?
Dave McGuire.
Here.
Doug Haberman.
Doug.
He's there.
Okay.
Kyle House.
I'm here. Nice use of the gavel, by the way.
I'm here. Here. Jerry Blythe.
Here.
Neil Murray.
Present.
City Commissioner Sean Logan.
Yes.
County Commissioner Kevin Green is excused from today's meeting. County staff representatives Hubbard here. County staff representative Morgan here. And we've got Parks Superintendent Craig Mark here with us today. We also have Helena's Open Lands Manager Brad Langsauber
Here.
and Tyler Wolf here. I'm missing. We've got Lucas Wolf from Prickly Pear Land Trust. Online, Kendra Petaloo from Sandell who's going to do the presentation today. And that is everything.
Very good. Thank you. We will open with any public comment for items pertaining to this agenda. I'm hearing nothing. We'll move on to unfinished business. Column A, none. If we had unfinished business, we would ask for public comment. If anyone knows of any unfinished business that we need to address. I hear nothing. We'll move on to new business. We have some wonderful pictures here of the North Star Park Master Plan. And we'll let Kendra take that from here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me today. So we finished our final master plan document and plan that was sent to you previously. I'll go through it pretty quickly and I'll focus on the final master plan parts at the end. So let me share my screen. So this is the document that should have been sent to you as part of the agenda. So this is our final document. It goes through the whole process from beginning to end. So it starts with the introduction to the project, the history and location. We did the pre-design public engagement, which was our open house #1, and a survey. It reviews the findings and stakeholder meetings, reviews the findings from those. Moves through the analysis of the site and the document review and the water analysis that informed the initial draft master plans. And here you can see some of the bubble diagrams that led to the draft master plans. Then it goes through the post-design public engagement where we were on site. We had the 2 concepts, reviewed those with the public, got their feedback on comments, their preferred options. This is what we reviewed at our last presentation to you. And at that last meeting was where the board voted on the nature-focused concept to move forward as the final master plan. The following pages go through the in-depth explanation of each concept draft master plan. And then we go into the final master plan, again, the nature focused one. So we went through from the last presentation, there weren't many revisions, but we revised it accordingly. One of the major ones was to remove all the artificial turf for now, just keep it as an option. So we did that. Most of the layout stayed the same otherwise. And I'll jump to the large scale plan at the back of this document and go through it really quick. Sorry for jumping around, but here's the full scale final master plan. Again, it was based on the nature focused. Where you come in from the north, there's parking there, and on the east, we have our sport courts that flank that community room, and that entry plaza for community events moves through a WaterWise demonstration garden into a play area that we're now showing with just a generic fall zone material right now. That can be decided later. South of that moves to another open air pavilion with another WaterWise demonstration garden overlooking the multi-use sports lawn / grand lawn. There's berms surrounding the sport courts and the sports or the lawn for informal seating and noise mitigation. There's the pump track, which we are proposing to be paved because it can then also be used as a skate park if that's what's desired in the future, connected to that east parking lot. And then moving south to the more natural area of the park with some trails, more of nature walk. You can bike on them with our stormwater detention at the far south and that overlook pavilion with a interpretive trail around that as well. Along this outer paved walking path that's about a half-mile long, there's benches that are noted and some dog waste stations, because that was another request at one point to bring in to accommodate the dogs, but not have a formal dog park. Another feature that's been consistent throughout is the evergreen tree windscreen that protects pieces of the park. So jumping back to our document, that's what this looks at. It's just the more in-depth is at the end of the document. Then we looked at the phasing and the cost estimate. What's the best way to build this? How much might it cost? Obviously, things change throughout time, and this is just our best estimate. But we looked at breaking it down into 4 phases. These were based on the information we knew from talking to the county director of grants and purchasing, like what might be available first. Also, what's easiest to build first? What uses the least water? How do we get those initial wins and get it on the park? And also thinking about building future phases, how those will interact with the already built phases so we don't have to demolish what was already built. So this explains that. And this is our diagram. We felt it best to focus on that perimeter walking trail and the northern parking and sport courts initially. Again, it's mostly hardscape, so less water. And I'll say too, as this park gets built, these phases could be broken down even further if needed to like phase 1A, phase 1B. It all depends on funding and contractor availability, etc. So phase 1, we were looking at getting those the backbone of the park in, which that walking trail will be really important. Stormwater detention that's sized appropriately if this entire park gets built. So you only have to do that once and accommodate it in that way. The sport courts, we know that's a priority of the community and the county. So getting those in, getting use of those first, and then providing the parking for those. Phase 2 then focuses on that community building and the playground. Again, 2 other things that were high priority for the community and county. This phase is considerably smaller than the rest just because it has more built elements that are a little pricier. We also try to look at the cost of each phase and doing equal breakdown as best we could. And what made sense too, I'll also say, is if you stopped at phase 2 and phase 3 and 4 never happened, it would still feel like a complete park. That was our other priorities with that. So phase 2 focuses again on that major community need of the playground and the community room, which if needed could become just an open air pavilion and still be successful in the park. There's some design development considerations that we included as well moving forward. I think they're, yes, on page 30. Those things include like if the park or the pavilion with restrooms doesn't work, it could still be an open air pavilion, still be successful. Looking at the themes that were discussed with the public to begin with, how those can come in. It's more in the details. So at this level, you don't see them as much, but like just keeping those in mind as this gets developed into construction eventually. And like even the types of play equipment, the community was neutral on whether they preferred nature play or traditional. So just again, as it develops in the future, these are just some ideas to explore further and just keep in mind. Sorry, jumping around. Going back to the phases, so then phase 3 was developing more of the southern half of the park, particularly that lawn and another demonstration garden with a pavilion. We're hoping like the disturbance of this native meadow is limited. So really, it would be complete with the installation of the trails and the berms and the lawn. Pushing this phase further too allows for more time to figure out the water situation because the lawn is the highest water use of the entire park. We've talked about it before with size. Based on the assumption we might have one well, the still lawn is very high water use. So pushing that into the future while still giving the community what it needs felt like a good move. And then the final phase 4 is this pavilion at the south in the nature area and the pump track / skate park. So then looking at those phases, we broke them down accordingly. And again, this is an estimate. We tried our best to look at the low end and the high end, and at time will tell where these come in, but each phase, I think phase 1 and 2 were the most expensive. I'll have to look again, but we broke them down. We included our best guesses on design fees and construction observation and stuff like that to give a total look at what it might cost. Because design will be developing the design will be part of that. So phase 1 is looking at between 1.4 and 1.8 to complete. Again, that can be broken down further if needed. Maybe you only do one basketball court now and do the other one later. So you have phase 1A and phase 1B. There's different ways to look at it. And we felt comfortable with our phase lines of being able to break those down further. And again, the goal is to have a park that still felt complete. And if it can be further built, where to go next. Phase 2, it's I think the most expensive phase due to that enclosed building with restrooms and all the playground equipment. That one's looking at 2.4 to just over 3. Phase 3, the more natural native area is 1.2 to 1.5. And the phase 4, the pump track and the South Pavilion is about, we'll say like 650 to almost 8, just rounding those numbers. So that's what we're coming in with those, and now it's our phasing diagram. And beyond that, that's how far we got in developing, like how are we going to implement this park? And I know I'll quickly finish through the document, what's included in it, and then I know Lindsay and Angie should have some additional information on water that they're researching, so then I'll let them speak. But Appendix A is the pre-design community engagement. That's when we were taking, what does the community want? We had no idea this before we designed. So this is just the raw results from the survey and that open house and their comments. It's all in Appendix A. and our stakeholder meetings as well. The notes we had from that, we met with the North Valley Park Alliance, the North Star HOA, and the County Public Works. And these were the boards that we presented at that first open house. Appendix B is the post-design community engagement results. That's where we were at on site. We had the 2 master plan concepts. We wanted the feedback. Again, this is the raw feedback we got from both the in-person and the online version. And I will note, in the version I sent you, I forgot to add this little graph, so I added it in here. It would be in the absolute final document, but that was the voting on the community, what they preferred for each, for which focus. And then we had a presentation to the Parks Board, you guys, and the County Commission meeting, and these were our notes from that. And that's what we took, the community feedback and these notes, to revise the master plans that we saw at the last meeting that was voted on the preferred option. And these are the engagement boards from the open houses. These are the original draft master plans, just so they're in the document so we can see where we started. These were the ones that were presented in August of 2024. So this is what was included on those. And then the final appendix of this document is the full-size master plan. So actually, before Angie and Lindsay might speak about water, are there any questions or comments on this?
Kendra, this is Alex Tummerup. I really appreciate what you did on this. This is in my backyard almost. So I love what you did, the noise mitigation, you addressed that. And that was one of my big concerns with the neighbors. And I think you did a great job on it personally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kendra, thank you. I'll second. I think if I'm recalling things, you've addressed all the concerns that we brought up. And if I remember correctly, this was approved to go to the county, or do we need to take action on this today?
That's what today is for, is to approve for it to go to the commission.
We need to continue that, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, so Lindsay and Angie, I know you met with several folks. If you want to talk about that.
Sure. So we met with DEQ, DNRC, water quality, and environmental health to talk about the water situation for the park. And the biggest thing that we found out, which we kind of had a feeling anyway, is we definitely can't use any of the existing wells that are on the property for irrigation. There's potential to drill our own well, but there's going to be a lot of legislative possible changes regarding exempt wells in this next legislative session. So if we were to do it, we would have to have it drilled and put it to beneficial use probably before the end of the session.
Unless, of course, unless with the session, they could say, you know, here's sort of here's a date specific when this law would go into effect. But it may not be something that happens, but it's a possibility.
And then we're still kind of exploring some other options as well, possibly
Like the tree
trucking
diapers
water.
and trucking water,
to
and
get
then
things
maybe the
established.
cistern, like something like that.
But we're still researching those options.
Maybe well drilling should be phase one.
Something we have to have,
Well, we had to have the money to do it too. Yeah.
So can I, why not use the existing wells?
Yeah, water rights on them,
I
exactly.
mean, not enough water flow.
They're already like obligated to North Star.
they
Okay,
have
specific.
perfected all of their water rights.
Oh.
So there's no additional to use for irrigation. Yeah.
The thing we talked about was, you know, if you drill a well on site, then there could also be those negative repercussions where property owners say, well, wait a second, we're on water restrictions.
Mhm.
And you guys are watering this park over here. I know it's a different well, but you're sucking our water. And so we're just keeping that in mind and trying to think of the different options that we have. But we also had legal counsel there, and I think we're gonna continue this conversation. We also talked about, the sales, that as shade options. And it could be that maybe there's some sort of a combination, but definitely would be using native trees, native vegetation, and kind of exploring all of that. But that's where we're at, is we can't use those 6 wells, so one of those 6 wells.
This is Doug, if you can hear me. Is there, in the granting of that parkland, was there any discussion of water? I don't know what the document is used to create that as a parkland, but is there a dedication or something from the developer that states the rights of that property?
Typically, there is something, and we could look back at that and see if there's something in there.
Has your council, have they consulted with a water attorney? Because that's kind of a special field.
No, we had DNRC, DEQ, and some county folks with our legal counsel at the meeting, and we was more of a brainstorming session and really just try to understand, like, what can we use, what can we do? If we do this, then how does that work? So it's more the initial stages, but we do know that if we want to drill a well,
You probably
we
better
have to do that really soon. And it might not be possible for us to do it really soon because we have to have money to do it.
Do we have a cost for drilling the well?
usually like $50 a foot,
That
isn't
would
it?
be-
Something like that.
Something to look into. Would we be able to use some of our county money to do something like that, that we have in our funds?
If it's used towards, I think people have used money for irrigating.
Mhm.
I don't know about specifically like drilling the well associated
But
with
we
it,
have.
but I would think that you probably could use money for that, but we're also looking at, like grant money,
Sure,
and then
yeah.
we'd have to apply for the grant and have to be specific to allowing something like that and have to, get it approved, so,
I'm just thinking if we get into a time crunch.
yeah. Okay,
there
no,
might
that's a
be-
good idea.
Would North Star share any of their water?
Well, if you drill your own well, they're gonna be sharing their water with you.
The thing is, it's in a
Fair.
tertiary aquifer,
Mhm.
so you don't know, like, are you getting some of the same water that the users in North Star are getting, or are you getting a different, like, little, crack in the source, so
We have,
it's hard to know in that kind of an
I
aquifer.
mean, I guess all of their water resources are already spoken for.
Doug Haberman has a question. Go ahead, Doug. Can you hear us?
If you're talking, Doug, we don't hear you.
And he's waiting.
Can't hear us.
Next year.
Maybe not.
I can't hear you guys.
Oh,
Now we hear you.
Okay, I can't hear you at this point.
go ahead,
So I'll
Doug.
just look, yeah, I can't hear you guys, so I'll just go ahead and look. There's a cat, it's recording down below, so I can read that. I just want to say it's a great plan, and I think if we look a little bigger than just North Star Park, we're gonna have to be figuring out these issues all across the Helena Valley in terms of water and water management, and there is a lot of concern, and who knows what will happen in the legislature, but the exempt well issue is a real challenge because it does allow a lot of wells to go down in a certain area. So I think figuring out how to manage these parks, looking at the vegetation, thinking about climate change and what vegetation is coming and will thrive, I think would be, this is a great opportunity to do that. And So what happens here is important and I guess that's what I wanted to say. I do, what is my other question that goes with that? And it sounds like it's Public Works, who is the management and maintenance presence here? And I assume the county sheriff is the enforcement person, but in terms of maintenance and whatever is built there, who'd take care of that?
So that's kind of another part of the conversation that we had yesterday, is we consider this more of a regional park. And so it may be that there's some sort of special district that gets created. The county will have to figure out how to address maintenance here. Currently, since we don't have a parks department, anything park related is split between the planning department, our public works department, and our finance department. And so in some cases, planning isn't involved at all. In other cases, public works isn't involved at all. So in the case of this North Star Park master plan, we've had public works at the table for most of the conversations, specifically their special districts coordinator, the public works director, and then the county engineer. So they've been involved with this project, and we're just trying to figure out like what that would look like. I know that in the case of like watering out there, public works does have like watering trucks that they use to water roads. Whether or not they're actually willing to fill tree diapers is a completely different conversation that we need to have. So that's we got to figure out. We're going to have the same situation in some parts of the county. Other regional parks that we have some sort of agreement, whether it's with the school district or it's with like Babe Ruth. But I don't think we're going to have that here. So that's, we might be creating some sort of special district. We'll see. But that's another part of our conversation with our legal counsel, just trying to kind of work all that stuff out.
All right, thank you. That's a great answer.
Interesting. Is there any more public comment on this? I hear nothing. The board, we've had a few things brought up. My question is, what do you want us to do based on the fact that we need to figure out water and we need to figure out maintenance? And do we?
Are you asking us to approve this plan?
It's really just, you're looking at a recommendation to the county commission on the plan, and the irrigation side and the maintenance side of things are things that the planning staff will have to determine outside of the plan.
So I move that we recommend approval of this plan to the county commission.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the plan moving forward to the county commission. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. The motion carries. Kendra, thank you.
Yes, thank
I could
you.
ask a question. This is Doug. When will this go to the commission?
We're looking at next week, but we haven't been on the agenda officially yet. So we're hoping next week.
Lindsay or Angie, you guys have an idea on that?
If it's not next week, then the following week, but it will be probably the first half of December.
I'm gonna go.
Thank you.
Okay, any more comment or questions on this agenda item? Very good. We're gonna back up to, I got so excited with the gavel. Yeah. We forgot to approve the minutes. So for minutes from the November 6th, 2024 meeting, has everyone had a chance to look at those? I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make that
Doug,
motion.
I approve that motion.
Doug second.
We'll say a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Heather, I have, where did these fit in today? I assume this is Treasure State.
Yeah, or excuse me, Angie's,
Does this,
county,
does this go to
county
comments
report.
later?
I'm sorry,
The Treasure State
it's,
update?
it's under, yeah, it's under the county update.
Excellent.
But I just didn't have all the email addresses to send you guys the pictures.
That's fine. We'll, I just didn't know where it fit in. Okay. Is there any new business that needs to come before the board?
This is Doug again, Jerry. And crew, we've heard for 2 meetings about a regional parks district. And it sounds like county is doing some research into it. The city commissioner Sean Logan pointed out that we don't really have we're an advisory group, and I think that's important. I think keep that in mind. But I'd like to see that on as new business next meeting and start talking that process through with this group of people and managers.
Very good, Doug. And we'll bump that to the bottom where we propose for next agenda. So
Okay.
make them. We're thank you. All right. Anything else in new business? All right, we'll go on to reports and updates. City staff.
All right, I'll start briefly. We have open lands here today in Parks Superintendent, so I'll touch on our facilities, golf and civic center. We've got some positive trends going in both of the operations, in particular the restaurant munis. In the last 3 years coming out of COVID, revenues went from $180,000 to $280,000 to $500,000 in revenues. We saw a $7,200 profit, first profit at the course in decades, perhaps. Things are going really well. So, testament to the staff. Todd Fitter, the head pro, Steve Link, the superintendent of golf, and then Kelsey, who is the food and beverage manager. All 3 of those positions in golf are a little bit disconnected, but you need all 3 of them firing all cylinders to keep the operation going. And they're doing a great job. So we just want to comment on that. The Civic Center, they've been booked every single day for the last month. They have Thanksgiving Day off and Christmas Day off. That's it. The Civic Center is doing well. As of today, compared to last year, $200,000 worth of tickets have been sold, 6,000 tickets. This year to date, it has more than doubled to $423,000 of ticket sales. What is it attributed to? Well, there's a lot of factors. Some of our user groups, like for the Nutcracker, they are now utilizing social media to push their own events more. We're working with event promoters that are doing a good job, and we're doing a better job of socializing as well. Plus, they're still coming out of COVID trends. People going inside, people coming back to the Civic Center to event going, whoa, I forgot how great this facility is. Plus, we have a Josh Turner concert and Ed and Clint Black in February. So those 2 hit the scale a little bit. And those are 2 pretty good acts coming to this town. And a testament, they're fully staffed. They have a great staff. They're doing a great job. And don't want to jinx anything, but we're really heading in a good direction. But there's a point with all stopping out. You can only do so much in the restaurant. We've increased fees slightly and been tweaking it for 2 to 3 years with the commission to get to where we think we need to be, and we're almost maxed out on our fees, for what we offer. But we're just going after it every single day and doing a good job and have a great team, have good leadership, and I'll pass it on to our open lands manager, Brad. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks for having me here today. Today will be more of a report of what we did in open lands for all of 2024. But from here forward, we will present the board with quarterly reports that'll be that period. So it'll be a little longer today, but we have a little bit of a background for those that aren't really familiar with the city's open lands system. Here's a great photo that was taken by a member of our financial department some years ago of Mount Helena. And of course, Mount Helena City Park is still our shining jewel. and the most visited portion of our open land system. But through our partnership with Prickly Pear Land Trust and many of the natural resource agencies, Mount Ascension Natural Park now actually rivals Mount Helena City Park in size. So they're both a little over 1,000 acres and occupy quite a bit of the open space system. See if we can get this to work.
Could hit the other button.
It's on.
I know. No. Oh, gosh. Sorry, folks.
So the open space, city's open space system consists of about 25 parcels. We have approximately 2,500 acres. We're heavily forested within the city's open space system, so over 2,000 acres that are contiguously forested. And within those parcels, we have about 45 miles of what we call designated trails. We have many more miles of trails that people are just using on their own, but these are trails that have signs, trails that are on the map, and trails that people can pull up on various apps. So within the Open Lands program, we basically have 5 disciplines: trails, forestry, weeds, facilities, and grants. And by disciplines, I mean these are major areas of management within the Open Lands program. Actually have this working. We do, we being our staff, which is myself, Assistant Open Lands Manager Tyler Woke, and we have a staff member that's focused on trailhead management, and then we bring on a seasonal staff in the summer. There's a lot of maintenance done on a lot of miles of trail within the system, but today I'm just going to highlight some of the major projects that were undertaken in 2024. One was the Archery Range Trail. About 15 years ago, this trail was moved further from the archery range because we had some safety concerns about arrows leaving the archery range, which not to say that they don't occasionally. But over time, this trail needed attention. It had the very badly outsloped, which is not a big issue for biking as it is for hiking. It makes it less comfortable to hike. So staff put in a lot of effort to get this trail prism back to where it needed to be, and we're real happy with where they ended up. Another was the Swaney Trail, and Tyler used this project as kind of a litmus test to see if we could deal with some of the cupping issues we have on our trails, where they get real cupped in the center and then they hold water, and then we have issues with mud and ice. So he was able to pull material back up on the trail and rebuild the prism, and I guess, Tyler, you're real happy so far with how it packed from traffic, and we'll probably continue this kind of work on other segments that have the similar such problem. Another trail that we've tossed around over the years, we being city staff, and when we had the Helena Open Land Management Advisory Committee in place, was the H Trail, which has always been a social trail. We call it the H Trail because sometimes people are going up to be closer to the H. Sometimes they just want an aggressive hike up to the summit and choose to leave the 1906 trail and proceed basically straight uphill. When we had that gully washer, what's that been, 2 years ago, where we had a lot of damage done on the 1906 trail, this trail carried a bunch of storm water down it and caused a bunch of damage. So Tyler and crew dealt with reestablishing drainage on this trail to keep it from getting worse and kind of bringing it up to a grade where people can enjoy it. Because closing it's not really an option. It's something that the public wishes to do. So we're kind of, in a sense, adding it to our system. The Waterline Trail was a trail that the city worked on with Prickly Pear Land Trust some time ago, connecting the water line trail from the Forest Service further towards Unionville. So we ended up going up and crossing the road and basically tying into Barking Dog Trail. But we did have a public come forward. We always knew we had this trouble spot in it where if you were a beginning biker, there could be some nervousness because there was quite a slope down to the rock outcrop above the highway. So again, the crew worked on widening that segment to make it not so narrow and a little more of a safety factor for people, mostly people on bikes. It wasn't as much of an issue for hikers. This trail has been a difficult one in some standpoints to manage, where it ties in and crosses the road because our little trail prism gets wiped out with snow plowing activities in the winter, but we've done the best we could and it's getting quite a bit of use. The Acropolis Trail was a situation where the water department had to put a gate on the bottom of the road / trail because we were having some issues with people getting up by the water tanks. And when we did that, it was very difficult in the winter for people to walk around that gate. And we had a number of publics contact us with those issues. And so the crew worked on establishing a much safer and easier to use route around that gate, because the gate's going to be in place from here forward just to make it accessible from Sparta Street and where people could get up on the trail. And one of our biggest projects of the year, a trail funded by the Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks Recreation Trails Program, was basically bringing back, upgrading, improving the Upper Davis Bike Skills Course. So this is south of the old shooting range trailhead. And this project was a product of a city commission appointed Ford Corridor Working Group, which came up with concepts that made all the user groups satisfied. And the first phase of that was putting in the universal access trail right in the gulch bottom. And then we did some different things, separating bike usage from pedestrians. And the final phase of that was upgrading the skills course. And so that was completed through a contractor, a local contract company, Fat Tracks. And yeah, people are really happy with it now. You have the option of doing the upper bike skills course and then continuing on down and going through the lower skills course. And this is a really important youth training area because our youth cycling programs basically base at this trailhead, and that's where they start the kids up on this trail. And it's just going to be a great asset for the biking community. Jumping into forestry, again, another one of our major disciplines. Unfortunately, we had a little outbreak of the Douglas fir and graver beetle. So this is a different bark beetle than the one that we had problems with a decade or more ago. This is a beetle that really started becoming a problem after that heavy spring snow we had in, I believe, 2017. And then we had a full-fledged outbreak on Mount Helena a couple of years ago, and we lost over 2,000 trees. So we went in there, we had to deal with them immediately. We had a hazardous situation with hazard trees over the trail. These are large trees, they weren't little trees, unfortunately. And then, of course, we had issues with forest fuels and all kinds of things. So we went in there, marked all the trees, brought a crew in, took the trees down, and then we'll burn the slash piles this winter. This was a project that we just completed recently next to the West Ridge subdivision that is immediately above the Grand Canyon Boulevard. And this area had its first forestry treatment in 2010. Our forested areas are going to have a treatment every decade. So, we decided to prioritize treatment of this area because we did have some concern from some of the residents within the subdivision about the fuels, and we went in there with a Lewis and Clark County Title III funds, and we're able to get this project done this fall, and we've had great public feedback on the appearance. Yeah, we're real happy with how this project turned out. We just had a volunteer, an NRA church just went in and pulled all the flags that we put on the trees that are gonna stay, so these piles will sit, slash piles in there will sit through the summer, and then we'll burn them next year. Part of our forestry program includes burning, so obviously when you do the treatment, then once that material is dry, part of the program is annually disposing of that slash and actually physically reducing the fuel, so you're taking the fuel loading off of the landscape. Last year, we were real focused on Mount Ascension, kind of in that dry gulch area above the aftershock and entertainment trails and within the archery range facility itself. We also burned the piles of burnt material from the 2022 wildfire on Mount Helena, and got up there and got that material burned as well. And this is an ongoing program. We will be doing some level of burning every winter. That all goes through the Department of Environmental Quality approval process. So we're constantly coordinating with them on what days are going to be conducive to putting the smoke in the atmosphere. Program, I decided not to put maps up because we had so many areas. So the way that our weed program works is we're kind of targeting somewhere around 400 acres a year. So we go out and look at areas that we're having issues and break those into a contract. Doesn't mean that an area is going to be treated every 4 years. If we're 400 acre rotation, we have about 1,600 acres that you can actually treat mechanically. Some of the areas are improving dramatically, and so hopefully that number will come down, but financially it'll probably be a balance because we're going to bring in more backpack spraying, and that's more expensive to get to our very remote areas. So even though our treated acreage may drop, our cost will always be about the same.
Just out of curiosity, Brad, what are the weeds that we work on here?
So the weeds that we're having the biggest problem with are knapweed, thistle, toadflax, and unfortunately we've had more spurge patches of part of the last 5 years. And part of that was the addition of the white addition on McCran Cannon Boulevard. That property had quite a bit of spurge. So those are our focus weeds. We do have some other noxious weeds, but that's our biggest problem. Facility wise, one of the projects that we worked on over the last 2 years was the expansion of the old shooting range trailhead, and this was kind of a multi-phase project in that we got a Title III RAC grant from the U.S. Forest Service to install a vaulted restroom. And then we worked with Narrate Church and Ales for Trails that was able to fund the handicap parking platform that we could put next to the restroom, and then that tied into the universal access trail that was funded by the Recreation Trails program. Then as a city staff, we went back in and took this trailhead back to its original footprint that I started with in 2008, because we were starting to have some capacity issues. And part of this was obviously we took out some capacity and put it into handicap parking, but putting the youth programs into this trailhead means they have to have their own little area to meet and organize. And so we increased the capacity by about 20 vehicles. depending on what kind of parking discipline we get. This is a gravel surface parking lot. You know how that goes. We're not always happy with the discipline, but I can see there will be a day at some point where this is probably hard surfaced, and we'll be able to get a little more organization. But this is also a shared trailhead with the U.S. Forest Service for the Rodney Ridge Trail System. And we have the capacity there, and it's just working great having a improved facility there. Another project that we tackled with Ales for Trails funding was kind of an informal trailhead that we had on Limekiln Road. It kind of started as just a few people parking and then blossomed into a number of people. We ended up having a trash can there and a mud mitt station, and problem we had is people were backing into the traffic way when they were leaving because you couldn't get turned around. So city staff took this project on ourselves. We were able to probably cut the cost down to about a third by doing it ourselves, and created an in and out parking area that can, what do we have, Tyler, 7 or 8 slots?
7, I think.
And people can do what they need to do. They can get in and out of the car without being out Limekiln Road. It also allows us to plow the snow and not be in the road. It was always weird when you were plowing snow there because you were backing out into Limekiln. And so we didn't get carried away trying to build a huge trailhead parking area here. We just tried to do something that was going to work better for the public. So again, all of the paving was funded by Ales for Trails. A big part of our program is aggressively pursuing grant funding for a variety of the things we do. And so depending on the year, about 40% of our budget comes from grants. Basically, we turn about $650,000 program into an over $1 million program by writing, applying for, and acquiring and managing grants. One grant that we were just able to get was a hazardous fuel reduction grant. So this will be a companion project to the West Ridge project. We'll tie that treatment into areas that we did adjacent to the Prairie and 1906 Trail about 4 years ago. And we'll get areas that were done over a decade ago back on track as far as their schedule. So super excited about this grant. This is called the Queen City Fuel Reduction Project, and it's about 110 acres. We also competed and were able to acquire a Montana Forest Action Plan grant for nearly $300,000, and this will be used to treat areas within Mount Ascension Natural Park located south of the South Beatty Trailhead, and kind of getting a lot of those treated areas, getting their second treatment in place and catching a few areas that we hadn't treated yet. So super excited. This is a 300-acre project that'll probably span over a couple calendar years, and obviously we'll have a lot of slash pile burning to do up in that area in the future. We worked with Lewis and Clark County, I mentioned earlier, to accomplish that West Ridge subdivision project, and these were Title III dollars that the county had, and we're super happy to get this project completed and acquire those funds. We received a Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Trail Stewardship Grant in 2024, and use that to fund the Upper Data Spike Skills Course project. And then a project that we have not engaged on yet is we're actually going to use some USFS Resource Advisory Committee funds, Title III funds, to connect the what we call the Sourdough Starter Trail. That's kind of the return trail if you choose to do the bike skills course multiple times, or a trail just to travel uphill on a bike, and it also gets a lot of use from hikers and runners. But we're gonna tie this trail into the USFS system so people can seamlessly come down at the end of their ride if they want to go through this upper skills course and then proceed on to the lower skills course and down on into town, and that's going to be an option. So I think that would be a real popular loop up there. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. This is our 4th employee, lots of enthusiasm.
That's an understatement.
So Brad, who writes all your grants?
I do.
Do you do that?
That's John.
The fuels reduction on the West Ridge, we walk over there almost every night. It's really good.
Yeah, we were super happy with that project. Was done by a contractor known as Warman Forestry, and they employ Honduran and Guatemalan workers, and they're just, I mean, their work quality is the highest that I've seen in fuels management in my career.
Question, Brad. Great presentation, great program. My background's in forestry as well as parks, and this is I think this is an outstanding approach, and well-managed lands, and they're just going to get better under Brad's leadership there. But where's the wood for the prickly pear when they do their wood, community wood supply? Does that some of that come from open lands or their lands, or where's that come from, Brad?
Yeah, I'll answer that question, even though I don't. That, from my understanding, has been material donated by Mark's Lumber. And so there's kind of 2 programs for, I think it's been about 16 to 18 years. Narrate Church has taken all the material from city open lands and some of our boulevard tree material and annually distributed that. And that distribution will happen this Saturday out at the Saddle Drive Golf Course. And so there's kind of 2 different programs now, but we do try to get as much material as we can, although as you can imagine, our more remote areas, it's impossible to get that material to the low-income firewood program. But
do the infected trees, are they not supposed to leave there? Is that an issue? They can't be moved, or in those?
No. In answer to that, if the beetles have already completed their life cycle and left, then that's when the materials move down to the golf course. That material that we can move down. And if not, we either have to burn it or leave it on the forest floor. Some of the trees that you see on Mount Helena actually have quality as lumber that we can use in the program. So as we can, we will be bringing some of that material down to a small sawmill and having it converted into wood products. But it ends up being areas that we have access to that we can get that material to the program. But between urban forestry and open lands, we have kept enough firewood to run that program for many years.
Thank you, Brad.
All right. Anything else from the city staff? And Doug, thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that leadership had something to do with the successes we've seen. And since you've come here, lots of success. Thank you. All right. City staff, open lands manager, county staff, what have you got for us today?
I say the biggest update, you have pictures in your packet, and that's at Treasure State Acres, they got their playground.
Yes.
So I just wanted to let you see that.
That's awesome. Thank you. Another success for this year. Okay. City Commissioner Shaw?
I just have a little comments on our leadership in our Parks Department and especially in terms of golf and the city center as well. I might add something that will probably increase the Civic Center's successes. I think it was a couple of years ago, we put aside some ARPA funding for the auditorium this summer, for cooling.
The air conditioning
Yeah.
unit project for the ballroom and the civic center, so we'll be able to host events in July and August, which we are not right now.
Yeah, which has been a kind of a good time for the civic center. Hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, there's over $1 million in multiple buckets
Yeah.
through grants, Troy facilities, and then ARPA funding for that project.
Yep, so that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, AC will be coming soon, and within 2 years, hopefully it'll be solid up and running.
Real cool.
Literally.
All right. Helena School District, Neil.
Not much to add. We are actually at 1 o'clock today meeting with gentlemen from Western Recreation. They're going to be doing a inventory of all of our playground structures across our district. We just don't have the documentation to show what it is, where it was purchased from. And they're an umbrella company for, I believe, like 8 or 12 manufacturers. So they have all that information. They're going to put together an inventory list for us. And then I'm working with him on a pretty large scale grant for parts replacements and new parts. So we can look at here. We're going to need that in the near future. We're not going to have funding to replace or repair the stuff we have. So looking for down the road kind of money to keep those structures in play.
Sure. All right, thank you. Lucas, what have you got for us from?
Not a whole bunch new from last time for Prickly Pear. I did want to mention though, there is a new trail in the scratch gravels that the Montana Bicycle Guild completed with Fast Track. And Prickly Pear wasn't involved with that, but it's a cool little addition to the scratch gravel. It's on the south side. It connects Head Lane to Echo parking area for Trailhead, so that's cool. And then, yeah, we're just getting ready for next year. We'll be clearing, our trails department will be working on Colorado Mountain kind of trail area to sort of get that cleared out and brought up to maintenance specs for the Forest Service. And then continuing working with Forest Service on the South Hills trails maintenance and stuff. And our parks are Prickly Pear Park, the new park in East Helena on the old Asarco property, that's slated to open in the spring. So I know everyone's probably tired of us saying when that park is actually going to open, but it's actually going to happen this spring. So yeah, then I can give you more updates on that.
Yeah, that'll be a great park.
Yeah.
All right. Public comment on any items not on the agenda. And I hear nothing. Oh,
No, nothing on that.
nothing? Okay.
I just have one question, if I can jump in. Are there open positions on the board right now, or when are those filled or refilled?
That sounds like a question for Heather.
Yeah, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There is a position open being advertised.
In the city or county?
That's what I gotta, let's see. I believe it's a city position. Yes, yes.
Thanks, and great meeting, by the way. That's info.
All right. And
Niall, hold on just
go
a
ahead.
second.
Oh, go ahead.
Niall, did you have something?
I'm sorry?
Did you have anything to add today?
No.
Thank you.
Proposals for next agenda. We have one from Doug. So we will want to discuss a regional parks process. And I have a question for Doug about our master plan that's been in progress. Have we seen that yet, or?
I can give the update when we talk about this, because they're kind of intertwined.
Okay.
We're in the process of either getting it updated with the same company, Greenplay, or put it out to bid. The concern we had early on in pursuing and implementing the started the process of a comprehensive master plan. We're kind of looking at, watching the arc and what that project may have happened if it was going to go in spring of 2025, which is not. So that side of the way, so we're starting to look at it. So this is a comprehensive master plan that costs $250,000. We have $120,000 allocated to funds. So we're trying to find a way to team that up. And decision to start discussing visual parks districts. So just to put it out there now, so the first step for the city, we're focusing on a comprehensive master plan, which will open up a lot of eyes on what we have, what we need, and then we'll lead into potentially some discussions. The county leads the process. At that time, we'd be interested, to start talking.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, let's put a discussion of that on our agenda for next meeting, which will be February the 5th of 2025. As January 1st is a holiday, there will be no meeting. Does anyone have anything else for the good of the organization? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are hereby adjourned.
Jerry.